Just to give a little background, so planning for the census obviously is an ongoing process, but we really began in earnest in May of 2020. And there's obviously a change of environment. So the emergence of COVID-19 in early 2020 really changed how we were going to approach how we conducted the census. So the risks that we anticipated at that time, would there be a limited vaccine availability, that there could be a potential reemergence during census enumeration phase, and that there could be restrictions on mobility of people between either between provinces or even being within regions of provinces. So a few areas that we had to change: collective enumeration. That would be, for most people, you'd understand as to be nursing homes, hospitals, anything of that sort, that it's communal in nature, as well as we had to change how we were going to do our non-response follow-up. We also changed any of our group-based activities. So normally we'd be in offices, we'd have recruitment activities done out of there, there'd be in-person training, there'd also be a data operations center in Gatineau that would be doing some of the work. So to ensure the health and safety of all Canadians, as well as the staff working towards census, is one of our main goals. And to maintain the response rates, which are among the highest in the world. So just for your information, the global non-response in 2016 for the city of Prince Albert was 5.3% for the short form and 7% for the long form. So our strategy for 2021, basically conducting a contactless census, minimizing face-to-face contact and movement of staff. So there's a new emphasis on self-response and avoidance of face-to-face contact with enumerators. There's the expansion of the electronic questionnaire as an option, and also enhancing the promotion of the EQ option so that more people will complete online. There'll be the introduction of no contact NRFU, so we're not going to be entering any dwellings, and we are going to begin our non-response follow-up via telephone rather than in person. No enumerator will visit a senior's residence or other facility where vulnerable Canadians live. It'll be contacted over the telephone with an administrator or anyone else that we can get to answer on behalf of the dwelling or the collective unit. And occupational health and safety equipment has been provided to all our enumerators that will be working in the field. As I mentioned just briefly, so normally we'd be working in offices. Normally the office for Saskatchewan would be largely be based in Saskatoon, as well as a remote office in Prince Albert. This time we are not using those offices other than administrative hubs. Occasionally someone will go in, but all our work is being done from home. There's also the creation of a statistical contingency. If we are having trouble in certain areas, we'll be looking at using other sources of data to complement our information. For most of you, what you'll notice, the city of Prince Albert is what we call a mail-out area. So Canada Post will be responsible for the delivery of the letter, or what we call an invitation letter, on May 3rd. Census Day is actually May 11th. There's also reminder letters that'll go out and a strategy involved with that. Basically, we start in-person visits starting June 2nd. Again, that'll be doorstep only, not going into any offices or not going into any homes, and doing it via double masking, all sorts of social protocols in place. Sorry, I'm just trying to be mindful of time here so I can answer some questions as well. So the adoption of the non-response follow-up, as I mentioned, encouraging the self-response over the internet, establishing social distance, no dwelling entries 6 feet apart, providing the personal protective equipment to our infield enumerators. I should also mention that you'll see when the enumerators are going out that they'll have pinnies that identify themselves as census workers. Again, mentioned collective dwellings, so seniors residence, correction institutions. We'll be conducting the census with a collective administrator, no contact NRFU. Basically, we won't be going anywhere where there's potential for spreading COVID. As I mentioned, so normally we'd have staff working in our regional offices. That is not going to be happening. Everyone's working out of home. Just to give you an idea of where we do have staff. So I myself I'm located in Winnipeg. There's the field operations manager in Saskatoon that's responsible for the Prince Albert area. as well as a field operations supervisor who's based out of Warman that covers Prince Albert. We also have recruiter for Prince Albert, 2 crew leaders from the local area, as well as 32 enumerators that will be conducting the non-response follow-up. Just a quick little note about collaboration. So obviously anything like this where you're helping us get the word out about Census, we appreciate. Our recruitment is going well. We're able to staff all locally, so we're very happy with that. I know we've already been in contact with some of the city administrators, so we appreciate any information they gave us on developments or any growth areas that we have to watch for. Just in general, any sort of administrative data that would help us. So that's the quick presentation. As again, my name is Chris Preston, and also on the line is Perry Steen. So I'll open it up if there's any questions that anyone has.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Before we turn it over to for questions, I understand Perry's available as well if needed, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Perfect. Thanks. Okay, so thank you for that. Mayor Dion, any questions of our guest?
Yes. You had a slide there where you said 7% long form, 5% short form.
Yeah.
Was the ones that weren't filled in? Is that what that slide was?
So for global non-response for us, that's anything that didn't come back. So that might have been a dwelling that we weren't able to identify if it was occupied or not, or if there was a person that refused to complete the census. So all those combined, the short form. So basically you can look at it as we completed 95% of the short forms and 93% of the long forms for Prince Albert.
So can I assume by that comment then that 12% of our population did not get counted?
No. You'll have to forgive me because I'm the operations side, I'm not the statistician side. So obviously once all that information goes back into head office, the methodologists look at it. What they'll do is they'll impute data for the missing information. So obviously we strive to get as high as we can. There's always a little bit of leeway for people that are not able to answer for one reason or another, but at that point the information would be imputed for those the ones that did not come back.
Okay, so my last question, Mr. Chairman, and then I'll move on to it. So if you're saying, for example, they came to my house, they got no response, so then it goes to the stats. So then what do? Put 2 in my house or 1, or is there an average?
You know what, I'd have to get back to you on that because, as I said, I'm not a methodologist, but yeah, that basically what they'd look at is based on the characteristics of the area, they would estimate how many people were in the dwelling. So obviously if it was a house that was way above average, it would not get reported that way. If it was way below average, it wouldn't get recorded that way either.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Hence why we strive to get as much as we can completed, and even the 95% is a very high confidence level for us.
Good, thank you.
Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Chris, for their presentation. I did have the same question as the Mayor asking about the 5 and 7%, but that was clarified. I do want to point out that we are making attempts as some of the councillors reaching out to the public and pleading them to fill out the form. So I'm happy to hear that you have an office here in Prince Albert, so we can help or assist in any way we can through City Council, I'm hoping.
So just to clarify, because of COVID, we didn't end up doing it was planned to have an office in Prince Albert, but we weren't able to actually do one due to COVID. But we do have people in the area for sure. We don't need to have necessarily someone right in an office there to help out. We'll have people on the ground, and definitely we'll be pushing hard.
Okay, and then the last one I had is just to put your contact information back up there. I'd like to capture that, and if I have questions outside of today, I'd be reaching out.
Sure, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you guys were provided this presentation as well.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody has a copy of it. Thanks, Chris. Okay, any other questions for our guest?
Tara Lennox up here.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask when the enumerators do come to the doorsteps, will the enumerators be handing out and have paper copies of the census form to provide? So
normal procedure is they wouldn't. I kind of breezed over our phased approach, but even when we knock on the door starting in June, our first reminder is usually just hey, you would have received this, please go online and complete it. it wouldn't be until we get towards the end of June, early July that we'd actually start to complete it with them at the doorstep. At that time, they would have a paper copy that they completed on, but the first few reminders are usually just more gentle nudges to go online and use their secure access code to complete it online. From our point of view, that the data quality when someone does it online is so much higher than when they do it on paper, because there's automatically the system is recognizing if they've missed a step or if they've added something that they shouldn't have. So we really want to push people to do it online.
And the letters that people are sent out, those are letters, they are not copies of the paper form of the census. Did I understand that?
Correct, yeah. We call it an invitation letter, so it kind of comes, they crack off the sides, they open it up and says, here's your secure access code, please go on to census.gc.ca and complete your census now.
So just so that I'm clear, the only time that citizens would receive a paper form of the census from you folks is end of June, early July at the very end here.
In theory, I apologize. So in theory, someone could call the census toll-free line and request one be sent to them. So that is an option, but it's not usually an active option from us. It would have to be someone proactively looking for a paper copy to do it.
And is it an option to fill out your census by telephone?
It is. Again, not one of our better options. We prefer someone do it on their own, so there's no chance for miscommunication between the two groups, but that is another option that's available if absolutely necessary.
Thank you. I appreciate all the information.
Okay, any other questions of our guest? Thank you, Chris. We'll pause here and we'll entertain a motion from the executive committee at this point. Ready on?
Receive and file.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. And I believe the vote is open. Councillor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the vote is closed and accepted. Okay, we'll move to the next item. Item 5.2.
I'd just like to say, if I can just say thank you very much. I think Perry and I are going to duck off and let you guys continue on your business, but thank you again for the opportunity to present.
Yes, Chris, thank you for joining us. I should have thanked you earlier, so thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having us. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Barry.
Bye-bye.
Okay, item 5.2, update on the Prince Albert Regional Economic Development Alliance and tourism. And I believe Ashley is with us in the room. Hello, Ashley. Welcome, welcome. So with us is Ashley Charles, Chief Executive Officer of the Prince Albert Regional Economic Development Alliance. So just give you a moment here, Ashley. I think I have to do a little bit of magic here. Okay, I did that. That's what I thought. Well, okay. Okay, good stuff. Thanks. Okay, Ashley, welcome, welcome. And how's things? And let us know why you're here. And if we could wrap it up in about 5 minutes or so, that would be helpful. We've got a long evening, but we are very happy to see you here.
Thanks for having me. My name's Ashley Charles, and I'm the CEO of PREDA, the Prince Albert Regional Economic Development Alliance, and I'm here to just go over a yearly update, accomplishments in 2020, tourism Prince Albert update, as well as the budget for 2021, and also the COVID-19 impacts and the response plan. Okay, so with Purita, our long-term goal is just to have shared economic prosperity across the Prince Albert region. Our mission is together strengthening the Prince Albert region, competitiveness, productivity, and community investment opportunities. So these are our 4 pillars. Just branding Purita, making a statement. A lot of the first year has just been foundational, just creating awareness for Purita, but there's been a lot of work that's been done for more operational activities, creating more policies, and just having more of a solid administrative foundation. So again, our 4 pillars: business retention and expansion, business and industry development, strategy and performance, and tourism and marketing. So highlights for the past year: operational plan has been completed with the board, and policies and procedures, human resource and governance. Also an investment attraction study. So I did reach out to the federal government for some funding for an attraction study, and we've been successful. And so of that 30,000, they're able to commit 15,000. The other 15,000, I'm reaching out to the provincial government to help us with that. With tourism, there's been quite a bit of dollars that have been allocated for the recovery of tourism. There's been 50,000 that has been allocated to PA tourism specifically, and a lot of that money is more for content and marketing. Purita website is up. It does need some work. But again, we're just starting, first year operational, so lots of ups and downs. So the business development and attraction, investment attraction, this is the one that I was talking about. There have been people that have been coming to us seeking investment in the area. 2 of the big companies are Eco2 Biomass and also in the forestry sector. So if you've heard of Pivot, they've reached out to us as well, just trying to seek, opportunity to invest in the Prince Albert region. And that's where I recognize, a need for an investment attraction study, just to align with, how are we going to deal with these people that are coming to the table. So, and also infrastructure. So we recognize, infrastructure for internet is not the greatest in the whole region. Prince Albert is great, but the region as a whole needs some work. So we've been working with, do you remember the name? An internet provider has been knocking on the doors looking for opportunity as well, and we just continue that conversation with them and that relationship building and just recognizing where the needs are. With Tourism Prince Albert, we had the budget, staffing, response plan, discovery guide, and map will be freelanced. Our strategic priorities are the visitor center, Indigenous culture, and the entertainment district. So reopening plans for 2021 are still on the table as to what we're going to do with the tourism center. It's month by month. We're going with the government and what's happening with the health of the region as a whole. So in response to COVID, we have scenario A, scenario B. COVID's still around. COVID's lifted, but right now it's still going through the transition phase, so we're still dealing with a lot of the legal and accounting pieces. So these are all handouts. You guys have them in your packages.
Yep.
The marketing, so we have a mini-series coming from Tourism Prince Albert, and that's the North meets South, history and culture, sports and recreation, and a local champion that we want to focus on our mini-series. That's one component for tourism, is just a media campaign. This is who we are. And that's a big piece. Action plans, so communications, COVID-19, signage, higher usage of digital and social media, budget marketing, higher marketing and business development employee, react, respond, and resilience. Insights for the recovery, context, creativity, collaboration, capacity, and connectivity. Any questions?
Thank you, Ashley.
Yep.
Any questions from the committee? Councillor Kilmer?
Thank you, Ashley. In the presentation, under strategic priorities, I was just wanting a little more clarification because I didn't understand what this might look like, sound like, feel like. Where you had under the PA Entertainment District as one of the strategies. What does promote creative placemaking as a tool for community revitalization? What does that look like, sound like, feel like?
From the entertainment district?
Yeah,
pillar?
under one of the strategic priorities. Yeah, I just didn't quite understand what really creative placemaking meant.
Creative place. That one was just mostly because, a lot of the events that come to the region are sports and recreation. So like hockey, softball, all those things, that's why the entertainment district is getting just a lot of hype, right, with the new developments and everything happening. And so we thought that was an important piece because so many people come to the city for those events. And so, the next 5 years, those are going to be detrimental in how we promote Prince Albert for others looking in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Head?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess I just wanted to say thank you, Ashley, for the presentation. And I know you guys got a lot of work ahead of you for sure. And I did review your priorities, and I think you guys definitely have a goal in mind, and I can't wait to see it come to fruition here. So anything I think we can do, let us know, and definitely want to see us be successful in this front here. So thank you for your work, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Councillor Cody?
Yes, thank you very much, Ashley. A good report. A couple of comments or questions, I guess, is what kind of latitude does this board give you as an individual, a CEO? Do they give you latitude that you can go out and do the things that you really believe you should do, or have you got constraints because of the fact that you have such a diverse crew of people, i.e. you've got a couple of reserves, you've got a couple of small towns, you've got a city, and the likes of that. Latitude means a lot because, I'll just give you one example of what I'm talking about here. As you look at Hudson Bay, look at Flin Flon, Manitoba. Hudson Bay Mining and Smelting is giving up. It won't be there in 2 or 3 years. What are we doing to capture that market and bringing it to Prince Albert versus bringing it to somewhere else? I think those are the kinds of things that we have to capture. Not all the time do we think about those things, and that's why I wonder, what's your latitude? Can you get out there and do the things that you want to do or need to do to bring that business to Prince Albert versus having it go somewhere else?
Thank you for that. My board is very supportive. They definitely do allow me to do what I need to. And if they feel, I need to do something and I present it to them, they're all for it. So they're very supportive when it comes to my job and what I got to do. So I praise that because I've worked for many boards before, and I'm telling you, you definitely need that support. But also, it's really awesome working with the board.
Thank you. Good, Councillor Cody? Good, okay. Mayor Dion, then Councillor Edwards.
Receive and file.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor now. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks, Ashley, for coming and presenting to us today. I am hopeful that we can see you maybe every 4 months. I hope that we can come to this committee and present the wins that you've been able to succeed with so far. That's what I want to see is what have we accomplished? And I get it. It's been a slow process because of COVID and setting up the operations, and I totally understand that. But I'm hopeful, moving forward, that we're going to be able to see, some economic development come forward and highlight what you've been able to do, what Parida has been able to accomplish. So would that be possible to see every 4 months? Is that something that we're planning on doing?
Yep, thanks for that. It was discussed at actually the last board meeting. The first year has just been a little bit of a different year for us. And now that we're pretty much set foundationally, we can start doing now, right? And so the plan is in place. Now it's a matter of getting out there, doing what needs to be done, and then reporting. We were talking about biannually, so.
Biannually?
Yeah, so twice a year within an annual report.
Okay. Thank you. That's everything for now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Well, thank you, Ashley. Thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do. And good luck with your board. And we'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Okay, folks, we have a motion on the floor, and we will move towards vote. And the voting is now open. Please cast your vote. Councillor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, the voting is closed and accepted. Okay, we'll move on to our next item. Item 5.3, we have a verbal presentation, I believe, a guest from the Prince Albert Pikes Artistic Swimming Club with a demonstration. No, just kidding. So, welcome. I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I don't want to say your last name incorrectly, but I will listen closely.
Thank you.
Shannon.
Thank you. My last name is Schlamp. I'm a teacher, so I say Schlamp. Okay, well, thank you for having me here to speak to you today. I am the incoming president of the Pikes, and we are very excited about our club, and we are more excited about the new pool that's happening soon. We have a bit of a struggle. We would like to bring to your attention our club, first off. We were founded in 2012, and we've had as many as about 22 to 25 swimmers. COVID hit us a little bit, and we had several swimmers take a step back from the pool this year. Our biggest concern is that we are having a hard time getting adequate pool time at what we think is a reasonable cost. We're currently swimming only out of Marion Aquatics. We swim there, and I think I should talk pre-COVID, 6.5 hours a week, and we're paying $85 an hour at that pool. Up until probably, I think it was 2019, we sat down with Marion Aquatics and said, because we were paying $125. And we had did some research and realized that the city was providing some major financial assistance to Marion Aquatics. And we said, we read the information on that and said, part of that assistance indicated that you would provide at a reasonable pool rate to clubs. And so we said, hey, we need a better price than $125 an hour. So they did bring their fees down to $85 in 2019. Nonetheless, we're paying, depending on the month, anywhere from $2,100 to $2,700 a month pool fee. We also know that there's an agreement with the city with the other swim club in town, which is more well-known than we are, the Sharks, and they're paying $11,000 for the year. So if you think that that's 10 months of swimming, that's $1,100 a month. So they're swimming at half the cost that we're swimming. So we're finding that it's very difficult to grow our membership, to be honest with you. We have to either increase our fees so it's an elitist club, which we simply don't want to be. We want it to be access for everyone. Or we have to just have a ton of members. So how do we get members? We swim from 4 to 5. That's the only pool time we have access to at Marion Aquatics. Well, how many parents are off work to drive their 7-year-olds to swimming at 4 o'clock? Hockey doesn't start at 4 o'clock. Most dance lessons don't start at 4 o'clock. Typically, we start at about 5, right? Because parents need to be off work to take their children. They don't want to drop their child off at a swimming pool when they're 7 all by themselves. They want to be there. So we can't grow our membership right now with a 4 o'clock time. We're finding it very difficult. So we have teachers like myself, and most of the other parents, or many of the other parents, are teaching parents because we're done work. We sneak away from our school and take our kids to swimming. We want to just be considered because we feel that we're not considered to get into that Frank Dunn swim time. And I know that with the new pool, there will be a new schedule and a new opportunity. So we certainly want to just make sure that council is aware that the Pikes need access. We need decent swim times to be able to grow our club. We have sent a letter, I believe this Saskatchewan Artistic Swimming has sent a letter on our behalf indicating that there's usually 4 provincial or interprovincial championships a year in our province. And certainly with our new facility, we would be able to bring one of those competitions. And that's 200 athletes. That's not parents and all their fans and coaches that come along with them. So we feel that it's in everybody's best interest to support our club and to give us an opportunity at some really nice costing pool time and some pool times, like I think a 5 to 7, maybe even a 4 to 6, but still we need better access.
Thank you, Shannon. Before we move to a motion, we'll see if there are any questions in the room for you. Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you, Shannon,
You're
for
welcome.
coming and presenting. I certainly can sympathize with what you're talking about. I worked with the former coaches you had, Jen and Connie.
Oh, right.
And it wasn't a lot of years ago that the club even started.
Mm-hmm.
And you've come a long ways. And I've had some good conversations with the current coach, Catherine, very, very passionate individual to grow the sport, and looking to host tournaments, and that creates activity for our city, and that's important to look at. I don't know the solution to this. I know that the Sharks, the swim club is having some struggles as well, with certain times, and I think the new pool will help solidify some of this, but we're still hopefully no more than a couple of years away, but we'll see on that. I do like the motion, so I will move the motion because it gets it into the community services department, and they can bring that forward and talk about possible solutions on what we can do.
Okay.
Certainly a fair price is what's required. I get it. We don't want these sports to be for the elite only, right? It's so important to have sports at a lower cost, because let's face it, we got to have active kids or we're in trouble. So I appreciate you coming forward and stepping forward and being, the president of the board. That's a big step. Good for you.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming doing the presentation.
Good stuff. Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion in front of us. Shannon, how many youth members do you have currently in your club?
Currently, we have 11.
11, 18 and under sort of a thing? Okay. And how many members in your club currently?
Well, if we're talking swimmers, because I can taint those numbers and say our volunteers are members, but actual swimmers in the pool, we have 15 this year.
Okay.
Last year we were at 18.
I was trying to visualize how you could be a member of a swim club and not be a swimmer, but I hear what you're saying.
Right.
Volunteers.
Yeah, there's
Perfect.
many, well, you just make you a volunteer member
Sure.
and then you're on my
Gotcha.
books.
Valuable people for sure. Good. Okay, so we have a motion in front of us. We'll move to a vote. Councillor, how do you vote? And the rest,
Yes.
please vote. And the voting is closed and accepted and passed unanimously. So thank you for establishing that relationship and thank you for your visit, Shannon. Take care. Okay, item 5.4, we have a presentation from the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. And I believe that is online as well, is it not? Okay. So, welcome, sir. Welcome, welcome to our chambers.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll let you introduce yourself and let us know why you're here. And we've got about 5 minutes for you, so hopefully we can make that work.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So good day to everybody there, including your worship, members of council. My name is Bram Enslin, and I'm the Delivering Community Power Campaign Coordinator for the Prairie Region with the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to your council on the issue of reimagining Canada Post and expanding the postal service. We've been putting together an ambitious, environmentally sustainable plan to reimagine the post office and offer some solutions that would benefit not only the post office, but Canada and the global community alike. Here's a summary of what our campaign is all about. Delivering community power. Reimagine Canada Post with new services to support every community. Imagine our post office doing so while becoming a leader in environmental sustainability and helping Canada achieve its promises for global climate goals. Well into the 21st century, Canada Post could be doing much more than just handling letters and parcels. Imagine the post office becoming a local community hub that offers members of all communities the possibility of accessing services such as broadband internet, electric vehicle charging stations, postal banking, new delivery options and check-in services for those with mobility issues such as seniors. Imagine the post office retrofitting its buildings and fleet of vehicles with sustainable energy sources and zero-emission vehicles. While energy producers and vehicle manufacturers are moving away from fossil fuel-based energy sources, and while our government is promising to address climate change, it is only right that our public post office do the same. There are some problems that communities in Canada are facing that we would like to see addressed through reimagining the post office. Currently, there are over 1,200 communities that have post offices, but no banks or credit unions, and only 54 out of 615 Indigenous communities are served by local bank branches. The post office could provide postal banking services in all corners of the country while combating the predatory lending practices of the larger financial institutions that have ignored many rural communities. This is not a new concept. Not only did Canada have a postal bank until 1968, but the UK, France, New Zealand, Brazil, and Italy, amongst others, all have successful postal banking services. Only 45% of rural residents have access to high-speed internet, which amounts to roughly 3.4 million Canadians that do not have access. High-speed internet has become an essential service, and it is akin to the electricity or the railroad of the 21st century, necessary to connect us all, whether that be farmers, students, or small business owners. The post office can provide high-speed internet access to communities in all corners of the country, regardless of size. Check-in services for seniors and for mobility issues can be provided by our mail carriers who are in communities every day. Seniors and those with mobility issues are becoming increasingly hesitant to move into long-term care homes, and our plan can help members of our communities stay in their homes safe for longer. Vehicle and energy manufacturers are steadily moving towards green technologies such as electric vehicles, and currently there is very little infrastructure in the prairies. There's been some implementation in the bigger cities, but almost none throughout the other areas of the country and in the north. The post office can provide charging stations for the public, but also its fleet. And finally, congestion and pollution are problems in some of our bigger cities, and the post office can provide new final mile delivery services to help ease that congestion through the use of non-traditional delivery modes. So this is all more than possible. Since the post office is a Crown corporation, Canadians own the infrastructure and logistics network that includes over 6,300 physical locations and Canada's largest corporate fleet. As a country, we own almost double the physical locations that Tim Hortons coffee shops have, and have the network to provide these important new services to all parts of the country, which includes smaller communities that the larger corporations have ignored. The plan is win-win-win. It creates and sustains jobs. It provides new services for people in all parts of the country, from small underserviced regions to large urban centers, and the post office will be profitable while being environmentally sustainable, which significantly helps our global community. And we know it can work. In the case of France's postal bank, they made 1.1 billion euros in 2017. Many other countries are operating profitable postal banking systems. And the new services we see the post office providing here have not only been successes abroad, but in some cases in Canada itself through either local pilot projects or at some point in the past. With Canada Post largely the largest corporate fleet in all of Canada, greening the post office is necessary. And we at CUPW will continually push to make sure that Canada Post adopts these ideas to not only match the climate goals of the current government, but exceed them. We need your help to do the same. We at CUPW are certainly aware of the sway that our government has over Canada Post, both good and bad. As you are the closest link to our communities, support from the municipalities is crucial. Over 1,000 municipalities, small and large, including some that are close, like Shelbrooke, Debden, and Wayakwen, just to name a few, have passed resolutions in the past in support of the ideas presented in Delivering Community Power. I'm here to ask that the City of Prince Albert pass the resolution to support a new vision for the post office by reaching out to government by adding your city's name to the list of supporters. And if that is possible, I would also like to ask you to share this resolution with sister communities and municipalities. This is a vision, and it requires pressuring Canada Post to change how our communities are serviced into the future. Thank you so much for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Bram. Any questions of our guest?
Tara Lennox up here.
We'll go Councillor Head first, Councillor, and then we'll come back to you.
Oh, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Bram, for the presentation. You mentioned the words visionary. I mean, it is going to be a tall order to see this come to fruition. But I have to say, I am in support of having expansion services to our post office. As a young man living in the northern communities, there was no banks, there was no Wi-Fi, and it still struggles to this day. Without the post office back when we lived there, I don't know how we would how my parents would have survived because we relied heavily as a hub of the community back when they were fully operational. We've seen some reductions to the postal services, but I mean, I support this in principle, and I think you got to tolerate not only convincing your employer, Canada Post, but the government at large in itself. So good luck, and yeah, thanks for the presentation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Zepp.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for the presentation, and that it is very refreshing to hear ideas about increasing services that could impact our city of Prince Albert, so I appreciate that. I am asking to make a motion that the city of Prince Albert endorse delivering community power and forward correspondence to the Minister of Public Services and Procurement, providing the Minister with a copy of the city's motion.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. I was just going to speak. I didn't really like the motion that we had or the recommendation to be received and filed. So I wasn't sure where I was going to move that motion other than to maybe to the mayor's office, but I see there's another motion up, so I'll see how that goes.
Okay, so do we have any questions remaining of our guest? Any questions of our guest before we go to the motion? Okay, Councillor Cody.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, Bram. It's very good and refreshing. I like it. You, of course, like the CBC, are some people who haven't got friends in some political parties. So when the election comes, make sure you take a good look at that. Because I can tell you this, if you believe you're going to do this when the Conservatives get in, you're kidding yourself. You're going to have another crew that's going to try and get you to the place you want to get to. I think you got a good presentation, and I think it's very worthwhile doing. And I think we should support the motion from Lennox Zepp, because I think we need to bring it to the federal government and tell them, look, there are these opportunities out there, and when you look at the small rural part of the province, it's worthwhile, I think, giving them the opportunity for better internet, better services, and this is one of the ways.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Question, if I may. Do you have a relationship with FCM or the provincial counterparts, the municipal organizations provincially across Canada? Is this also an issue that they can pick up the flag and join you in spirit and strength?
Yeah, actually, yes, the FCM, of course, I'm the Prairie Region Coordinator, so I handle Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Northwest Territories as well as Nunavut. But nationally, we do have a relationship with FCM. We have been attending in all of our different regions, including the one here in Saskatchewan for the municipalities of Saskatchewan conference and convention, which was the virtual trade show. And so we are attending each of those, and we actually have an appointment or a meeting coming up with FCM soon, but that's held by our national coordinator. But yes, the short answer is yes, we do.
Perfect. And where's your office? Where are you located?
I'm right now in Saskatoon.
Okay.
But our national office, of course, is Ottawa, and our regional office is Winnipeg. But due to COVID, I'm working from home.
For sure. Well, when you're ready to come up to the beautiful city of Prince Albert, we'll find some space for you. How's that?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Perfect. Okay, if there's no other discussion for our guests, we'll move to a vote on the motion. And the voting is open. Please cast your vote. Councillor, how do you vote?
Yes.
The voting is closed and accepted. Okay, Brom, thank you very much. Just so you know, that passed unanimously, so thank you for your presentation. Well done.
Thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time. This goes a long way. Thanks, everybody.
Stay safe.
You bet.
Okay, we will move to the consent agenda. Which items, members, would you like to remove? Just go ahead and holler them out.
Tara Lennox up here, 6.1.
Okay, we have 6.1. Any others? Seeing none? Okay. Sorry, Mayor. Mayor Dion, then Councillor Miller.
Well, I was going to move the balance, but I think Councillor Miller wanted to remove one.
Sure. Councillor Miller, please. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, 7.8.
Somebody has their microphone on. That's off camera. Could you please turn your microphone off? I'm sorry, Councillor, which item was that?
7.8.
That's on the main agenda.
Oh, sorry, I got it all mixed up here. Sorry, my papers.
I'll move the balance of the items then.
Okay, so we have a motion to move the balance. So on the motion then, to move the balance is where we're going to vote. Please place your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
Thank you. And the vote is accepted. Okay, we will go to item 6.1. Council then accept request for support in abolishing mandatory minimum sentences under Bill C-22 in partnership with local Indigenous communities. Council then accept.
Thank you. Thank you. I move that this correspondence be referred to the Prince Albert Board of Police Commissioners.
So we have a motion in front of us. Any discussion on the motion? Do you want to speak to that, Councillor? Councillor, is up?
Just very briefly, just that it appears that this is something that would make sense and be appropriate for the Board of Police Commissioners.
Thank you. Councillor Head?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I too was going to remove this off the consent agenda, and so I agree with my colleague that the report had said it was going to the mayor's office, but I thought it's not going to end on this agenda, or we're going to have some more work and follow up and more discussions about it. So whether it goes to the police commissioners or the mayor's office, as long as we have more dialogue about moving forward on it, I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, I don't support the bill. I don't support the bill. I believe that minimum sentences, in particularly for the drug offenses that they talk about under the bill is necessary. I don't believe that, that drug offenses should not be taken incredibly serious, and perhaps even the drug offenses and the sentences be increased, because selling the substances into our community these days is destroying communities across Canada.
And families.
And I don't really, to me, it doesn't matter whether you're Indigenous or whatever else you may be, you're still damaging the community, and it's not okay. And some of the items that are listed in under this bill make me scratch my head, and especially dealing some of the substances that are covered under this bill. So I certainly would not support the bill at all. Thank you.
Mayor Dion.
Well, and I don't know if we should go down that road. You know, we're in a municipal government, because in talking to people in the community, they're mixed. Again, it's a bill that you can half support, you can half not support, and that's the problem. And if you look at some of the results, minimum manning, ever since if you rob a bank, you automatically go into jail for 4 years. Do you hear anyone robbing a bank? So in some cases, minimum manning works as a deterrent. And in some cases, you know, under some of the marijuana laws now, I do believe there's some changes there. And that's what worries me about, they put a bill in and they put such a long range in it. If this bill would just deal with mandatory sentences since they've legalized marijuana and other, you know, drugs, then, you know, I could understand that, but it has such a long range in it. So I'm not going to support the motion strictly because as a municipal council, I don't think we should be getting involved in this issue.
Okay. Councillor Grudnick.
Thank you. Yeah, this is an issue that deals with our federal politicians. It's not a municipal issue in the sense of deciding the punishments. That being said, I think with what Councillor Edwards said, I think, you know, it wouldn't hurt for us to say, or for me anyways, to say that the trafficker, the violent offender, yeah, they need to go to prison, but the drug addict shouldn't. I mean, addictions, in my opinion, is not an offense. If you are addicted to something, that's not an offense. You need you need help. You need medical help. You need counseling or whatever. And that's what our federal government should be doing is, you know, look at Rivier Academy. Wouldn't that be a great addiction center? You know, a building to deal with addictions and mental health, those kinds of things. That's what I've said for years, is that the drug addict, the person that's addicted to a substance, is not a criminal. They are a victim of these people that are making money off of their addiction, whether it be drugs, gambling, whatever. You are being exploited, and that's maybe where we should go. And those are just my thoughts. However, that's not totally a municipal issue, other than it would be nice to have an addictions program and some money from our two levels of government, senior levels of government, putting towards addictions and mental health in our community.
Okay. Any other speakers? We have a motion in front of us before we move to a vote.
Kara Lennox up here.
Go ahead, Councillor.
I just had a question for the mayor. I noted that the recommended motion from administration was that this be referred for the mayor to meet with PA Grand Council on this correspondence. And I just wonder if my motion should have both of those in, the Board of Police Commissioners and also PA Grand Council. And my question for the mayor was just, should that be the direction? and kind of what was the intent behind that, to meet with PA Grand Council on this correspondence?
Ready on?
We did put it on the next agenda when we meet with the Grand Council, just because anything to do with Indigenous communities, I automatically put it on our meeting with the Grand Council because they are the voice for the Indigenous people in our area. So either way you could add it, but either way it was going on the agenda when I meet with the Grand Council.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers?
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
Sorry.
Councillor?
If I could just, yes, if I could just state that makes, the mayor's answer makes perfect sense to me. And so if I could add that to the end of the sentence, the Board of Police Commissioners and the mayor's office for a meeting with Prince Albert Grand Council.
Okay, the motion's been changed. Any last thoughts on that motion before we go to a vote? Seeing none, let's move to a vote then. Yeah, you just got to scroll down all the time. Okay, the vote's open. Please cast your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
Okay, the voting is closed and accepted and passed. Thank you. Okay, moving to item 7.1, Crescent Acres Ball Diamonds. I believe we have the director coming to the room. Mr. Boulay, how are you this afternoon? Good. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, Crescent Acres Ball Diamonds.
Yes, thank you very much.
I gotta hit the black. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to start with introducing Dwayne Kripp is here. He's the president of the Prince Albert Minor Baseball Association, and certainly a major partner of the City of Prince Albert and certainly our department, and wanted to start with introducing Dwayne, and he'll certainly be available if you have any questions on behalf of the association as well.
Good stuff. Thanks, Dwayne, for being here. Good afternoon.
Just to start, just a little bit of history. So back in 2014, when the plans for Project Triple Play were being formulated, there was a request of minor baseball at that time for some support at Prime Minister's Park with the former Lou Hobson ball diamond in order to make the Project Triple Play come to fruition, and also a bid on the World Championships. A new diamond had to be constructed, and also renovations to the existing diamonds. And with that success, of course, there was a lot of opportunity that came the way of Prince Albert through that event hosting potential. And one of the things, though, that was part of that consultation process was with minor baseball. And at the time, very appreciative of the support that was given from the association at that time. But it did come with some identified challenges that are attached to the report there in your package. There was going to be some challenges that we still face today with respect to access for a 15U ball diamond, and also for the capacity to hold provincials in Prince Albert in the sport of baseball. Over the past couple of years, this has been a topic that we've had some preliminary discussions on, but nothing that I think got to the formal point that we're looking to get it to here this year. We did revisit this concept with Dwayne, but also Dwayne took it back to his board of directors in early April to revisit that concept and see if this was something that they would support moving forward. I am pleased to update council that through our ongoing consultations, that is something that has been approved at the concept stage at this point. The approval that we're looking for today is in principle to move forward with the formal plan, very similar to previous projects that we've worked through
We have laid out some next steps within the report that we see as some very necessary items to move forward before we get to the formal approval stage. However, getting that authorization in principle will allow us to move in that direction. Just within the report, we have broken it out in phases, and now this certainly can be subject to change. We're just trying to do our best here at the initial stages to show how this could look as we get out the gate. But there are some, I think, early wins and some initial opportunities that can be done in a first phase. And then there's some more long-term solutions that we would like to see at the complex as well, such as lighting and scoreboards and things like that as we get into the future phases. So we want this to be achievable. We wanted to break it out in a way that we can achieve it and support with the support of the Prince Albert Minor Baseball Association. We had I would call it just an informal site meeting the other day, actually at the Diamonds, that had a chance to get out as a group and walk around a bit and have a bit of a chat about what the potential is there as well. And we're very excited to move this to the next stage and develop the formal package for council as a result. So without going into too much further detail, that's the outline that we're put in front of council today. We will be coming back to council as these next steps are achieved so that you will see some of the formal steps come to fruition should we have approval to proceed in principle today. And then also just a reminder that if you do have any questions of Dwayne, he's also here and available to answer that on behalf of minor baseball.
Okay. Thank you, Jody. Before we have a motion, are there any questions of either of our guests? Mayor Dion.
Well, first of all, congratulations and thank you for the Ball Association for meeting with Jody and coming up. What I like about this could be the new hub for baseball. That's what I like about it. Plus, I'm a baseball fan and it's close to my house. I can walk there. But I like the idea strictly because if you look at that area, it's already got washrooms there, it's got a concession, it's almost got everything you need except for the diamonds. And, you know, they can always be fixed, and that's what I like about it. We go into this area, it's a great opportunity to develop it, and so to be the home for baseball. So congratulations for minor baseball for stepping up and meeting with our department, and we wish you luck in the future, and I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other speakers or questions? Councillor Grodnick?
Thank you. Sorry to have my back to you, Jody, but with COVID, this is one of the results of it. So I like the idea. I'm totally supportive of the idea of developing spaces or activities, etc., for the youth of our city. My only concern is that we have a community services master plan that is supposed to guide and direct us. And when I look at the community services master plan, I'm hoping that, you know, baseball is, you know, tied for 13th on the list that the community said is their priority. I'm hoping, Jody, that on the list, the things that are above that are not going to be ignored and not dealt with. You know, for example, the number one thing is Councillor Miller's dog off-leash parks. That's what the community wanted. Like, are we going to not do these kinds of projects that the community wanted and jump to baseball because we had an issue here? So that's my concern, and I guess a question to you, Jody, is that where are we on the other projects that the community said are more of a priority than baseball diamonds?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Grodnick. So the example that you did use was the off-leash dog parks. Council will be seeing the Community Services Advisory Committee work plan here after our April 28th meeting. It'll be forwarded for approval. One of the items on that work plan is the report from our parks manager outlining some options on that topic. So certainly I would say that's already somewhat in some preliminary form of progress. Hasn't received input at the committee stage or executive committee stage yet. However, that report will be coming soon. What I will say with respect to some of the other items is the document itself certainly is a major guiding document for the department. The thing is, we do have multiple priorities on that. What does help those type of initiatives move forward is certainly community partnerships. When we have those types of partnerships come forward, such as the one we're proposing with minor baseball, it certainly has that prioritization is revisited. And I think this opportunity is one of those examples that isn't going to displace any other priority. However, when we have the opportunity to come to council and show partnership in the way of a sporting organization, but also financial resources, and to be able to secure those in partnership and not have to rely 100% on the city's funds in order to do so, that also changes our priority a bit as well. So I certainly hear your question. I don't think this displaces it. It just reprioritizes some of this, some of these projects we've identified and the opportunity in front of us.
Okay, thank you. And that I like what you said, Jody, is that the idea of partnerships is extremely important, and we should never ever refuse a good partnership. And this is a good partnership. I agree, a really good partnership with the baseball community. And so I would assume that with this partnership, you mentioned financial partnership as well, so that we won't have to make choices then. Like I look, at spray parks. We took that off, this year in our budget, and I wouldn't want us to see that we're going to forego the 2 spray parks, the pools that need to be converted for this particular project. I hope that doesn't happen because they are on our list as well. And I understand that the department has multiple things happening at the same time. So I am going to support the motion because it is to be approved in principle. I just needed to point out my concerns today. So thank you.
Councillor Edwards?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks, Jody, for bringing forward this recommendation. I think this is a win for baseball. I think it's a win for our kids in the community, most importantly. And the city. And with altering Crescent Acres ball diamonds to baseball diamonds, it allows the tournaments to occur and the provincial tournaments. It'll allow our the mosquito division and the Pee Wee division to host tournaments right on site there, which will be great. Certainly the letter written in December 2014 is still impacting baseball today. And they sacrificed a ball diamond in order for softball to host the Worlds. And good for them. They weren't selfish in that. That organization at the time was, looking out for the best interest of the city, and good for them. But today they're still without a ball diamond for the under 15. They're able to use Andy's Whack by setting up a snow fence, which is okay, but it takes some time. What this does, it doesn't allow the under 15 to host a tournament on one site because they'll have to go to Crescent Acres and Prime Minister's Park by Andy's Whack. That's fine. You know what? This is a win for everybody because we can move forward. And phase 1, most importantly, phase 1's not that expensive to do. And to move a fence and put some mounds in place, those are quick wins. Altering the dugouts a little bit, I think that this can move forward quite quickly. And there are some, there should be some grant money available for under minor baseball, applying for those grants, and that's going to be important. So I do support this in principle. I support this moving forward. I can't wait for the next step to be brought to council because I do think it needs to move forward and quite quickly. My motion that I had on to alter the softball diamond, that was to help correct some of the issues that baseball has struggled with since 2014. That's why that motion partly came forward. They were trying to use some of the diamonds. They were told by the city, you cannot use the diamonds because you're wrecking the grass. So I brought forward those motions. Should these come forward and this gets approved, I mean, it is my intention to withdraw those motions, but it's all for the kids. And this is a big win for the community. I really believe that. And I appreciate baseball coming out and meeting and with Jody. And there was lots of enthusiasm from the board of baseball, and that's great. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Mayor Dion.
I too did look at the community plan, but what excited me about this, so I'm giving hints from 1 to 12, is what changed? The Prince Albert Minor Baseball Association stepped up. They're going to be the champion. They're going to cheer us on. They're going to work with our department to make sure this happens. They'll fundraise, they'll participate, and so that's what excites me. And then when I looked at the community plan, I'm still talking to a sponsor about replacing one of the splash parks, not both of them, the one in Crescent Heights. So I think that still may happen in this year, even though we didn't have it in our plan, because it's a plan, and what do you do with plans? You work them. And I appreciate the department when a community group comes forward to jump up and step up, because that's what we're about. We're partnerships, we're caring and good community. And I'm excited to hear those bats swing soon down from my house. So I move the motion and I ask for the support. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Okay, voting is open. Please cast your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
Thank you. Voting is closed and accepted. And passed. Passed unanimously. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Dwayne. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving right along, flying through the agenda, item 7.2, request to use municipal reserve on Bassaraba Place. And I believe we have a director moving to the podium. So that's where we are going to start.
Okay, thank you, members
Director,
of council.
please, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, thank you. So this item has been in front of you on a couple of different occasions, never for a formal decision, which, as you know, City Council is the decision maker when it comes to the lease or sale of city properties. Members of the Crescent Acres neighborhood, Ryan and Jacqueline Wicks. Ryan is actually in the gallery today, and he's more than happy to answer any questions if you've got them. Initially, this dates back to July, I believe, of 2019, when Mr. and Mrs. Wicks made a request to this body to purchase some land for the city, or from the city of Prince Albert park space, to potentially construct a garage and expand his already established home-based business. So at that time, that letter was referred back to the Department of Planning and Development Services for discussion, and we've had a lot of discussions with Mr. and Mrs. Wicks over the last couple of years. But when it boils down to it, the nature of the request has somewhat changed. The home-based business expansion is much less of a concern as it is for the safety of their children and just having a little bit more yard space to use for their family. One thing about Bassaraba Place, it's a little bit unique. Certainly some different circumstances that we're used to. Over the years, you know, as you know, establishment of property lines aren't cut and dry. There is some space in behind some properties on Bassaraba Place that have somewhat encroached onto city property. This certainly predates the Wicks family. And what they are asking is to, ultimately what they wanted to do is purchase about 50 by 50 feet from the city, about 2,700 square feet or so. From a planning perspective, the sale of municipal reserve or park space is never something that we promote or support. However, in an effort to meet somewhere in the middle, Ryan and his wife Jacqueline have agreed that they would be more than happy to lease the land. So that is what is being proposed today. As you can see on the board, $500 is what the proposal is for over a 5-year term. We would certainly make sure in the agreement that the City of Prince Albert's interests are protected when it comes to no construction, no permanent structures, things like that. The only thing that we would allow potentially would be a fence, maybe a small, temporary movable shed or something like that, but certainly we would not allow for any permanent structures whatsoever. And after the 5-year term, if council chose not to renew that lease agreement, that is certainly your prerogative. So that is again, that's the approach that I've chosen today with my recommendation. I think this does protect the city and also meets the need that Mr. and Mrs. Wicks are looking for. And I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Director. Mayor Dion.
I have a question, and then I'll keep my light on because then I have a comment. I want him to answer this question. Okay? You don't think there's a risk to the city. What do you think about the correspondence that we have that says they want equal opportunity? So how are you going to say that to other people that come forward now? Before, our policy on little leasing municipal reserves was if there was a sliver. This is 2,700 square feet right at the end, and I'm worried about setting a precedent. So I'd like your comments on that, Mr. Director. As you aware, you received some of those letters. So what are you going to say to me in 2-3 weeks if you get 10 more requests?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. And you know what, on the surface, if you look at this decision in isolation, it's much easier to make than when you look at the city as a whole, as you're alluding to. When it comes to planning, you definitely do want to be aware of what we call cumulative impacts. So if we allow this for one person, do we allow it for everyone across the city? And all of a sudden, all of our park space is chewed up. And over time, that has a significant detriment on the city. So that fact is absolutely not lost on me. Park spaces are developed for a number of reasons. Some of them, they're passive recreation, things like trail systems. Sometimes it's active recreation, things like a soccer field, a ballpark. In no circumstance would I ever promote or recommend the approval to lease of those active park spaces. Some space abutting a rotary trail or that makes up a ball diamond or a soccer field or something like that. This space is a little bit different in that it is one of those passive spaces. It is not, I don't want to say it's not used because it's absolutely used. Kids might play back there. I know people use it as shortcuts and things like that. But certainly it is not used to the same scale as some of those active park spaces. To make my point further, the impact has already been created by past homeowners. That property is already being used as yard space. So this is not increasing that impact. It is just somewhat formalizing it. Mr. Wicks has made the choice to contact the city and try to get it in writing to allow this to continue. And I believe a lease option is one that, if it doesn't work for the city and we get too many complaints, I'm obligated to bring that information to council and it could potentially be canceled. Mr. Wicks understands the risks there, and that's why I've chosen this recommendation today.
Okay, Madam Clerk, I changed the motion. I move that we deny the request. And I have nothing against the family. I like the area. But at the bottom line is we're going to open a can of worms here. And if they're illegally using our space now, then we can correct that. Doing something on our property doesn't make it right. And I've heard from other residents that they want the same opportunity. So I disagree with you, Director, that it's going to be easy because every situation is going to be different. I don't want to deal with any situations. We've been very straightforward about selling public reserve and leasing it. And the only time that we've ever done it is when there's been little slivers, and I've supported those because then the neighbor can help. But we're giving them another yard. We're giving them 2,700 square feet for $500. And it's just the principle of it. And I just don't want to open that can of worms. So with that, I'm moving this motion.
Thank you. So we have a motion in front of us now. To the motion, Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you. This is a tough one, but an easy one as well. a tough one because you want to support a family, you want to support the ability to use that. And I would encourage the families along Basaraba cul-de-sac to use that green space. I wouldn't have a problem if they put a fire pit out there or whatever. The only concern I have is that this is public space, and the public has the right to use it and have access to it. And I campaigned 2 elections now that I will continue to protect park and public space and green space in the city. And therefore, I don't think it's right that one family is allowed to do this. I drove through my ward after reading all of the correspondence, and I'm just thinking, okay, along 22nd Street by the golf course there, how many backyards back onto 22nd Street? So all it would take is one person to want to have extra large backyard there. Brock Place, I mean, Cowan Drive, I could go Brannion Drive, I could go all along in Crescent Acres, you know, all of these different areas. And therefore, I agree with you, Mayor Dion, that we're opening up a very, very slippery slope here, or going on a very slippery slope here with if we do grant this. I think the family has the right to use it and should use it and continue to use it, put a swing set out there, whatever, would be fine. But the fact of the matter is that I don't think we should allow somebody to fence off public space or park space or green space. So,
Thank you, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'm not in favor of the current motion as it is. I think we sat in this chambers and have agreed and approved certain leases, whether it be driveway, whether it be an easement. And these cases are one-off. As our director had mentioned, it's a passive space. So I don't know if you were there, if you've looked at it recently, but I did go meet with Ryan today and looked in the backyard. And to me, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of public back there, and they have been accessing it as their, and the city doesn't cut the grass. I mean, these residents have taken upon themselves, these are their backyards, is how I look. And yes, these are one-off, case-by-case applications, and so I am in favor. After meeting with not only Ryan, but some of the residents that opposed this as well today. So I went and chatted with a few and got a better sense on this ask and how the yards are situated in the back there. So I'll leave it there. I'm in favor of the motion, not the current one on the screen.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I'm not going to support the current motion on the table. As Councillor Head pointed out, it's not a maintained park space. It is maintained by some of the neighbors for sure. It is. Would I support the purchase of this land? No, I don't think so. That would allow Mr. Wicks to put up a large building or whatever, and I think a lease allows the city to maintain that control, and it also allows Mr. Wicks to, put up a fence and to help protect his children. No question about that. It's nice to allow children to play in a safe backyard. Certainly, Mr. Wicks wants to use the property and he wants to pay us for it. And that's something that we don't see every day. I think that anybody could stretch their property as they want and it's for free, and that's okay somehow. But he wants to pay for it. He doesn't want to set up shop or anything else without legitimately just paying for the land. And when a lease was suggested, I was supportive of it because, well, he wants to use that property, and again, $500 a year times however many years it's in place brings some revenue to the city. And again, there's many people in the city that are using these types of properties unmaintained or maintained park space for free. And that's not what Ryan wants to do. And I don't know how we punish him for that. You know, there was no complaints. There was no complaints when, you know, one winter, Mr. Wicks parked his trailer there on that same space, blocking off that space. He parked it there. There was no complaints. So I respect the people, certainly, that brought forward the letters opposed. I get it. I get it. They didn't want to look at big buildings for sure, and I supported that. And when I went and saw them, absolutely, you look at some of the backyards there, and it's nice. But that space back there wasn't maintained for years. There's certainly some neighbors that have just gone out and done it now. As a matter of fact, some of that's been fertilized. But it's not really utilized for public. It's not. Go back there. It's utilized in the evening, certainly for the walkers of our city. Certainly used sometimes as shortcuts for that. But it's not utilized as a play park. It's not. It's not. It's utilized for the residents that live there, and most of those will still be able to use their space behind them. So it's difficult. If this was a request of a maintained park space, I wouldn't support it. There'd be no way. But the fact is you watch our lawnmowers, our city lawnmowers, drive right past because they're told, don't cut in there because we don't maintain it. That's what they're told. That's the information I was told. So if the neighbors didn't maintain it, this would be overgrown and look terrible. But some of them do. So I don't support this request. I was going to support the original of the lease because it allows the city to control what's on there. And I think that if Mr. Wicks wants to pay to utilize some of the space that other people don't, I think that's good on him. Thank you.
Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question's for the director. We have had other leases, and I tried to look back to see how we determined the square foot, like the amount that we have come up with. And in my mind, could not find the example, but in my mind, it was $1 a square foot for some reason. And so I am just interested in how we came up with this amount for that amount of space.
Director.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Kilmer. So the $1 a square foot, that is a practice that we've used for a number of years when it comes to purchasing property from the city, specifically park space. The best example that comes to mind would be if we close a walkway. If we close a walkway, we would sell it at $1 a square foot. And that is something that we've done for years. When it comes to leases, we don't have a similar type of standard. If it's used for commercial purposes, for example, sometimes we could lease for up to 75 cents. If it's used just a real small piece of, property that has no value to the city, we've gone as low as, say, 20 cents or so. So for the purposes of this land, it's not commercial. They're utilizing it as part of their yard. We did a calculation and we came up to $500.
Good. Okay, any other speakers, any other questions?
Chair Lennox up here.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Just a comment. I do support the mayor's motion here. I can appreciate the resident, bringing the ask forward. However, I agree with the mayor's concerns that this does set a precedent that other residents may be seeking to do the same thing, and that this is public space. I have heard from citizens in our city indicating that they prefer to leave our municipal reserves as public spaces, and so I am supportive of the mayor's motion. Thank you.
Okay, Any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll move to the vote then. Got it. Okay, the vote is open. Councillor, how do you vote?
Yes.
So that's in favor of the motion? It's not closed yet. Yes. If anybody else would like to change your vote, now's the time.
I voted the wrong way.
You voted, well, sometimes that happens. Yes. Okay. Okay, the motion is now closed and accepted. And the motion carries. Okay, moving on to the next item. Item 7.3, removal of trees. Utility digs, regarding utility digs and streetscaping. Just a reminder that there was some correspondence added to the agenda at the start of the meeting. So, I believe we have a presentation from the manager, Capital Works manager. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm before you today to bring forth a report on administration has reviewed the council resolution from October of 2020, realizing that council wanted to see a better communication to the residents, and so we put forth a program in which we will be providing to the residents in the first week of May that are affected by the utility replacement program information, and specifically identifying if there is tree removal identified for that block. We also will be providing more information on the city's webpage as far as utility digs go, to provide both the public on what the program is. Currently, it's the paving program, and so we're going to define it further to include information paving program with the utility, and more defined with separating the utility program for that to give more information. We also are recommending that we provide annually to City Council, following the April 15th meeting, a report that details the proposed program for that year to Mayor and City Council. And I open to any questions or any comments.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the report and for addressing those issues. So, any questions or anybody in the room? Councillor Head?
I got a comment, and then I'm going to move a motion here. You know, I've been in contact with the guy and Jean, and you know, they went through great lengths to provide a report and some more information about all different alternatives, I'll say, when dealing with infrastructure and, you know, saving on to some of the historic natures of our trees. So with that being said, I would like to have, in addition to this motion, I guess I would make a motion to capture some of that, but also to include,
So just to confirm, you're moving this?
I'm moving parts of this, but also in addition to that, I want to, in their correspondence, line number 1, Sherry, I'd like to see that included into the motion as well. Item number 1 through the correspondence that they provided.
Could you read that for us, please?
That the existing historic character of established neighborhoods be enhanced by restoring existing surface works whenever possible and discontinuing the current practice of eliminating boulevards and requiring streets to be widened when they result in significant mature tree removal. And I guess the the idea of that motion is to hang on to some of the value of our trees, as that arborist report had stated. I wasn't on council during the time when these trees were removed, and so I can't speak to some of the past practice, but moving forward, I'd like to see not only having the correspondence and dialogue with the residents in a timely fashion, but also to do our best to ensure that these trees stay within the roots in the ground, I guess.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you. This issue has been before us for a year now. And there's not widespread support for the report, not our report, but the report of these two people that live on 12th Street. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I've had more people thank us for what we did on 12th Street with removing the lead pipes and making their water safe and the widening of it and new sidewalks and new curbs. I mean, it seems like it's a small group of people that won't give up. They want to have their way and to prevent us from making some significant changes or improvements. Motion number 1 will really prevent that from happening in some parts of our city if we pass this. And so, Councillor Head, unfortunately, I can't support that. I think that the only mistake that was made was not communicating ahead of time and giving enough time for people to realize what was happening and then explaining it. But when the director explained to us why this had to happen, that the connections were right below these tree roots. This is why it had to happen. The fact that there's this massive SaskTel infrastructure below in the middle of the road when the road was widened once before. And it was widened once before. And a lot of the trees were removed once before. And so, yes, it did destroy the canopy. There's no doubt about that. But we have an opportunity to now, with our arborist, and I have 100% confidence in our parks manager. I mean, he knows more about trees and everything than any of us or all of us in this room combined. And he'll make sure that it's done right. And we have a good staff that will do that. We don't need to be told from Saskatoon how to do things. I really take exception to that when we had an arborist from Saskatoon come in and tell us what we did was wrong and that we destroyed $500,000 worth of trees and on and on and on. Well, if a tree that has complete rot in the middle of it and you could stick your fist right down into the tree is worth anything other than causing potential damage to vehicles parked there or to people in a storm or to property in a storm, then I'm out to lunch. Like some of these things, I don't think is legitimate in their concerns. And so I am not going to support the motion now that's before us because I think we have it right here. I even have some hesitation about the 3 trees per block. I don't know. I think we need to trust our department. I think they heard us loud and clear that we were really disappointed with the lack of communication. That was the key. That's the key in all of this, is the lack of communication up front. And now we already know that the 400 and 500 block are going to be done this summer. We've been communicated. They communicated that to us. I just hope all the residents know when this construction is going to start. And that's the key, is that they need to know so that they can plan to park in the back lanes, etc., and move things to the back. The garbage removal on the one side will have to go to the back and on and on and on. Those are the things that residents want to know, and that's what we need to do right. And then we're spending $17,000 per household in improvements on 12th Street. in those blocks. $17,000 per household. That's what it's costing to make these improvements. And I think we need to let the department proceed. Thank you, Nicole, for your report and your update today. And let's just get this done right and communicate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Dion.
I will too not support number one. Strictly, especially in Midtown. These people on 10th are asking me all the time, can you widen 10th? Can you widen 10th? Well, I have to say no if this passes, because they're so tired of being squeezed onto the street, especially in the wintertime. I get more requests from Midtown area about the widening of the streets and narrow and piling snows, because just look at 10th. You know, it's a perfect example of what narrow streets cause. So I don't support discontinuing the current practice. I do believe we have to change the practice we did, but the first practice we have to do is communications. So that's my question then to the director is, I don't know if April 15th is a long enough notice time. April 15th, we're going to start the work in May. So I do believe in February and March, we have to know the work that we're going to be doing in May. So I'm not saying give us the whole year, but we must know as a department before April the 15th what we're going to do in May and June. And I believe the sooner that we can identify the streets and the challenges that we have, even if we go ahead and do a study and then something happens, another street blows up, we can't do that street, at least when we come back to it, we already have the information that we know. We've already talked to the public, and we know our challenges. And the canopy, I'm interested in asking an arbor, because I'm not, and how long does a tree live? Like, does it live forever? You know, in some of the big growth forests, I understand. But in city boulevards, I did not think they were supposed to last that long because of all the salt. But I can't support number one strictly because we get so many requests from Midtown to widen the streets. And 10th is the perfect example. Go down 10th. You know, I'm always thanking the people for stopping and letting us go by and vice versa. I give people on that street very good credit. They're very polite, you know, and it's a challenge. So I can't support number one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I can certainly respect the idea of number one coming up on the board. Because last year, when the department went through and cut all those trees and did what they did, I was ready to throw things. I was so mad. And so I get that idea, but last year we were given a presentation by the director, Wes Hicks, and boy, he made a lot of sense about why they did it, about the need for it. And after that presentation, I just sat there and I thought, okay, that does make a lot of sense. And now change it's huge. It's a big change for that area. I totally would understand some of the frustration. But when I drive down there now, on some of the streets that they've done, or the one for sure, boy, it feels safe. You know, some of the canopy is gone for sure, but there's way more light on those streets. And so, boy, when I look at that, I know it's a big change, and I feel for some of the neighbors that, you know, don't like the change and don't want it. I get that. But when you listen to the presentation that we had last year on why the reasons they did it, it made a lot of sense. So I can't support for that particular reason. I certainly respect why you brought that forward, but I can't respect that number one, or I can't support the number one. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else before we move to a vote?
Tara Lennox up here.
Go ahead, Councillor.
I just wanted to add that it appears that the spirit of number one is to ask us as a city council to try to consider other options when significant tree loss may occur. And I do think we could do a better job as a city to consider different options if we're looking at significant loss of trees for a project, and at least look at what different options are out there, and then make a decision on that basis. And so I just wanted to point that out, that I think we did at the time of this work. We heard from many residents of the area contacting us and not wanting the tree loss, wanting the work done. I heard a lot of people saying that they really wanted the important work to be done. However, to look at some options on how we could do that. Do we have to widen the street in each occasion in the future? I also appreciate that these residents are forward looking. They're asking for us to consider things in the future on other blocks. Their block is done already, but they're asking us to consider the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Dion.
Well, what I'd like to see happen is I would like to see Public Works Authority to cut trees demolished. They are not allowed. That if they have a request and they're going to work on streets, they have to well in advance ask community services about removing the trees. Because I do believe we remove way too many trees that we don't have to. And even if we could have saved 3 on the block or whatever that figure was, that would have been better than the wholesale cutting we have. And I will give you an example of why Public Works should not have that authority to touch our trees. If everyone remembers on River Street, we had to bring a main water line down River Street. And Public Works ordered all the trees cut down. And then I went and looked at the dig. They weren't even close to where the trees were. Oh yeah, but our excavator was going to hit the tree branches. So we could go quicker if the trees were gone. And then the other problem that I have is I'd like to see community services also come up with, in the Public Works budget, when they're doing streets like that they do have landscaping. And we should have a policy. If we remove a tree, you have so long to replace it. But what happens, it's similar, we're finally getting better on repairing your lawn when we dig up your lawn, but look how long it took us to do that when we dug up your lawn for water breaks. We're finally getting a handle on that. So I'd like to get a handle on this too, and have community services do a report on that street on what trees should go, not Public Works, because they are the tree experts. And I think if we involve them more and get their opinion, and then they both come to council and explain it, then we'll understand it moving forward.
Thank you for that. So that's an interesting piece of information. Maybe we can clarify with the city manager. I would have assumed that the manager of parks is consulted, has a say on which specific trees are cut down, but maybe to the question to the city manager as to process. Is that not part of the process where community services and the manager of parks isn't consulted or brought into the room when a project like this is initiated or planned for?
So, can you hear me here? Yeah. Good. Okay, so, well, we do have an arborist, and he's the one who is in charge of trees. That's the way that we actually should move this. It shouldn't be any individual department. If we have an arborist who's gone to school for this, he knows everything about trees, so he's the one that should be considered by the Public Works Department or Community Service Department, get his opinion. He would sit with that particular director, come up with a plan, and move forward.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, any other speakers? Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So in hearing from our city manager, I heard the word should be. So a couple of questions. First of all, the forestry management plan, has that been passed by City Council, and is that something that is looked at prior to a Public Works, you know, in the
project?
In the budgeting process, I guess. And then are those the costs of the trees included in the project then, taking down, putting in?
City manager?
So it's quite clear in the recommendations that an update regarding the forest management plan before to the Community Service Advisory Committee is part of the 2021 committee work plan. So that forest management plan has had some tweaking on it. They want to bring it forward to that particular committee to make sure that they're adopting that particular report to move forward. There's still an opportunity to make changes if the committee does want us addressing situations, but that's what that will be. It will be fully reviewed.
Councilor Kilmer, you can keep your mic on till you're finished if you like. Are you okay? Councilor Kilmer, you're okay? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none then.
Chair,
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor.
I would like to move an amendment that the city arborist be consulted.
Not yet.
Be consulted before the removal of trees through the Public Works Department.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, is that, are we going to vote on the amendment or are you going to accept that, Councillor Head? Okay, so we're accepting that as a friendly amendment, so we're adding that into the motion as a whole. Yeah. So, City Clerk, are you okay with that? So we're going to accept that as a friendly amendment and vote on all of the motions at once then. Does anybody have any final thoughts on that package of motions before we go to a vote? Hearing and seeing none then, we'll move to a vote, please. On everything, all of the motions in front of us is what we're voting on. Okay, the voting is open. Please place your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
The voting is closed and the motion is defeated. Mayor Dion? Sorry, one moment, please. No, let's try this. Got it, got it. Mayor Dion?
I'll move the original motion, except for number 1, but I'll also keep number 7, which will become number 6, that the city arborist be consulted before removal of any trees by Public Works. So it's the original motion that I'm moving.
Okay, thank you for
Plus,
that.
I'll put number 7 on it because I agree with that, or it'll be number 6 now.
So we're clear on the motion. So the original motion plus Councilor Lennox Zepp's add-on a few moments ago is what's before us. Any discussion on those items? Can we see number 1 as the request? Okay, Councillor Kilmore, you have the
number
floor.
1 was his, he added it.
Thank you,
Excuse me,
Deputy.
Councillor Kilmore has the floor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm wondering if the mover would be willing to change the date on number 5 following the March 15th
Instead of April?
instead of April.
I'll do that.
Okay. So moving to March 15th. I only think it's fair to hear from the manager at this point to see, and then we can still make our decision, but are there any operational impacts? I understand, and I think the mayor covered that earlier, that if there are any changes, if there are any roads that explode, there may be an add-on or substitution, but the March 15th date, is there anything there that makes you get overly excited?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. March 15th is a tight timeline. We are just finishing up with, we have 30 databases that we update, drawings that we update the whole year's construction season. Once November 1 hits, that's what we're focusing on, is getting all our as-built information done. We work with finance in getting our PSAB updates done. We've now got CityWorks. We may have a GIS component that we're going to have to get updated into the system. And we haven't seen a change in our drafting and survey department as far as the amount of employees that we have. It's been an ask that we have every year in budget, but we're not provided it. So for the current staffing that we have, I don't see March 15th being an attainable goal with having something that feel confident in bringing forth to a public report for the public.
Councillor Kilmer? Too slow. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On hearing that, and I would leave it up to the mover to change it back to April 15th, if he so inclines.
Okay. Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you. The initial motion said, number one, that an update regarding the forestry management plan be forwarded to the Community Service Advisory Committee as part of the 2021 committee work plan. Now, oh, it is back. Okay, good. Because when I looked at it, it wasn't there. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that the Community Service Advisory Committee had an opportunity to look at it. So, thank you.
Mayor Dion.
Okay, a question to Capital Works Manager then. So then how do you do the budget? Normally, this year was an anomaly. Normally we have the budget approved by December 31st. So how do you approve the budget? You just put in a lump sum, and then if we approve it, you decide to go see what streets you're going to work on? Like, I already thought those decisions were made. Why I went to March 15th. I thought when we approved the budget, you guys were doing 10 blocks of water and sewer and undergrading, and then you were doing so many 50-some blocks for paving. I thought that was already in the queue, and then as we knock it off, it just changes. So maybe my question is, how do you prepare the budget if you don't know the projects that you're doing?
Thank you for the question. The majority of the infrastructure that's in the roadway is cast iron and verified clay tile pipe that was built in the 1900s, 19 to 1920. So we don't have a shortage of blocks to choose from. If we get the money, we can spend it. We've got an abundance of overaged infrastructure for concrete, pavement, water, sewer, storm. We know the locations that have your top 10 breaks, and we know the areas that have the PQIs that we want to target. We have a 5-year plan map, but to bring it down to 1 year of exactly targeting what we're exactly going to do, we don't have that prepared. And
Mayor Dion?
I'll move it to April 15th, but I'm hesitant to do it, so I'm going to monitor it for a year, and next year I may change it back to March.
Okay, how are we doing? Anything else? Okay, we have a series of motions in front of us, and we are moving to a vote. There's been a change, so we're doing that whole add and flip over thing. Okay, the voting is open. And Councillor, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Voting is closed. And the motion is carried. Okay, moving to the next item. concrete supply and installation. I think the manager is staying with us for this one. Are there any highlights you'd like to touch on?
I think for the most part, the report speaks for itself. We did issue an expression of interest this year. The contract that we were within with WBCL, B&B Asphalt, B&B Group companies was expired at the end of 2020. We had 3 bidders. WBCL was the low bid on every item and as a whole for all of the items. And so the city administration is recommending that we are approved to enter into a 1-year negotiated contract with the option of 3 additional years with WBC, with Wheatland Builders and Concrete Limited.
Thank you. Councillor Cody?
So moved.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Head?
Thank you. Just a question for the director, I guess. What work or concrete work does this company will be supplying to the city? It says, it doesn't say, it just says that it will be providing concrete work. So could you elaborate on what services this company will be providing to the city?
Absolutely. So we have our city crews do maintenance work for water main breaks, service connection breaks, maintenance concrete. We have concrete crews within the city, and WBCL has the concrete, provides the maintenance concrete for that. To fix sidewalks, curbs, install pedestrian ramps. That would be scope.
No,
Councillor Head?
Thank you again. Sorry, I shouldn't have shut my mic off.
Just
But
leave it on.
what are the services? Yeah, you didn't quite answer my question. Other than providing us with the actual concrete, are they doing any more work than that?
What he's asking is on the new streets, they do the sidewalks and the curbs. That's what he's asking.
Because it says the background for Wheatland Building Concrete perform the concrete work for the city. That's all it says. So it doesn't say what kind of work or how much work, levels of work. I know you mentioned we have maintenance crews, so can you elaborate a little bit more what work they'll be providing?
Okay. I apologize for the confusion. Yes, they would be our concrete provider for any of the capital projects that we have concrete work installed for. They provide the concrete paving, the curb gutters, sidewalks, medians, any of that associated work. They have provided the gravel base, or they work with the roadway contractor who does the base installation as well. And as well as that, they also provide the maintenance concrete, which we use for our city crews to do maintenance work, and our sewer and water crews when they're building their the manholes and doing.
So more of a larger scale project is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Edwards?
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I certainly support the motion. I would like to I don't know how we lock the rates up for 3 years, but I would like to do that. I don't know whether that's possible, or do we have to go to them every single year for different rates?
Thank you for the question. There's certain items that are outside of the price of concrete is one that is fluctuating. The price of fuel, labor rate. There's a few rates that are fluctuating that we've in the past has been why it's been unnegotiated.
So we have to go back to negotiate with this current company each year. So this is approving this company for a 3-year term or 4 years, and they just adjust their prices as needed for cost purposes.
It would
we negotiate that. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote then. Voting is open. Councillor?
Yes.
And the voting is closed, and the motion is carried. Moving to item 7.5, asphalt supply and paving. Capital Works Manager?
Thank you. this is for, the city issued the expression of interest for the supply of asphalt paving works for 2021. It had expired, the negotiated schedule had expired in 2020. This would be for the roadway contractor that does all of the paving works for the city for the capital program, as well as provides the maintenance concrete to our city crews for maintenance asphalt.
Thank you. Mayor Dion?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Head?
Thank you. Just a question, I guess. You know, at one point, I know that we were getting concrete or asphalt specifically from Saskatoon. So I see that there's one and only bidder. And you're right in the report. There was submission receipt from B&B received higher points for demonstrating their experience, supervisory, and project manager qualifications and understanding of the methodology to carry out the work and ability to meet the proposed schedule. That was exactly the same line I seen in the report previous. But what are other cities paying for asphalt? I know there's not a lining up to provide us with this, so we're very much limited to the one and only company we have here. But what is the comparison to asphalt in other cities? Like, what is Saskatoon paying for their local companies to provide them their asphalt and or like-sized cities as ours?
I don't have that information available. We didn't have a Saskatoon company that put forth a proposal to the city, so I don't have anything.
So my point is that we have no other option other than to accept this tender because there's no other company lining up to provide this service to the city.
We received 2 submissions, both from B&B Construction Group and from Ruskowski Enterprises Limited. Every item that was within the expression of interest, B&B Construction Group had a lower rate for each of the tasks.
Okay.
Which resulted in them being 25% higher than B&B.
That's a lot. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Mayor Dion?
Okay, not only was the other contractor higher, but if I read from last year's rate to this year's rate, am I correct in reading that the price actually dropped this year 10%? Am I figuring that out with my math? And even that even excites me more when you think of what Councillor Head said, when the competition is limited, most people go up 10%, not down. Am I reading that correct?
Within the report, there is no indication of comparison from last year, but we did receive competitive pricing from last year. Absolutely.
Okay, anything else? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Please cast your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
Voting is now closed and the motion passes. Okay, moving on to our next item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, financial implications of COVID for 2022. Want to turn your microphone on then? Mayor Dion?
I'll wait till the director's ready. So my question to the director is, I read with interest in the newspaper that we're going to lose 2.1 million for COVID in 21. I tried to find a report on council that we had that. Do we have that, or is that what you're doing today?
For 2021 budget, it went through budget. So we went through budget deliberations, then February 1st, I believe, we had the budget approval, and that's where the 2.137 was approved.
Okay, Director. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, good evening. This is our final report for 2020 for COVID impacts. So this is as of December 31st, 2020. The last report that we had was as of October 31st information. So the negative financial impact we have is 1.8 million, and that is a change of about 350,000 from the last time we reported. So with the 2020 year end, actuals of the financial information were reviewed. There were specific areas that were the most changes, the two of them. The projected savings for community services for operating expenses and staffing were not as high as estimated. Further review of actual results and the recall of employees as facilities were reopened reduced previous estimated savings. So we did spend lots of time with Jody and having those discussions with him. What are the impacts? So it's when we look at it, we've got a lot of city facilities that we do run, and all of those were impacted, whether it be from savings or loss in revenue. And second of all, revenue loss from parking meters, parking lots, and parking tickets showed further estimated losses this year. The revenue loss is now $481,000. Previously, we estimated it to be about $425,000. Unfortunately, one of the with the university was supposed to be opening in the fall of 2020, so that's where we were expecting some of that revenue to stay back to budget. Throughout 2020, it was apparent that there were areas that were affected by the provincial lockdown, and as we progressed forward into slow reopening of our province. In addition to recreational facilities, there were some other areas that suffered, and the largest of those were our interest of $205,000. Again, like I mentioned, our parking revenue, $481,000. Community services had a revenue loss of just over $2 million, but that was also partially offset by operational savings of $636,000 and reduced staffing costs of about $739,000. Our transit loss was about $160,000. And we had some other staffing savings in public works of $195,000. Building permit and license revenue losses were estimated approximately $75,000. Tourism and marketing savings were $70,000. We reduced the grant in 2020. And utility penalty and interest revenue losses estimated about $355,000. And that would be for the utility fund. Sanitation fund ended up being fairly on budget. At first there was some negative consequences, but at the end of the year they ended up being right on budget. And we had a loss of airport revenue of about almost $47,000. So as mentioned many times before, our modified operations will affect our revenue due to limitations on our allowed capacity or with the decrease in demand. Attendance and usage may or may not be limited, which will have an impact on revenue losses. Social distancing has altered the way the workforce provides services, which impacts our service levels and our delivery methods. So 2021 budget has an estimated for COVID of just over 2.1 million. And that's approximately 289,000 more than what we have for 2020. I'm really optimistic that with the vaccine rollout coming in progressing, I guess you could say, in 2021, that we won't be needing that full budgeted amount. And so we are looking at a financial impact of some revenue that we may not be able to have during our budget allocations. We did ask for $582,000 was approved to be used from the Safe Restart funding that we received. So overall, we're looking right now of about $161,000 shortfall. So the hope is that we do not need that 2.1 for 2021 budget. But we will be providing further reports as we go forward into 2021 here, and we will see what those impacts are. So as we open or close our facilities, and as we have people riding our transit system or not riding our transit system, that will have an impact. 2020, I think, is just a precursor to what 2021 is going to be. Thank you.
All right, I like the positivity there. Perfect. Huh. That's right. Well done. Good shot. Okay. Thank you, Director. Any questions? Any thoughts? See none? What did you wish?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Moved by Mayor Dion. Any discussion on the motion? See none. We'll move to the vote then. Voting is open. Please place your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
Thank you. The voting is closed, and the motion passes. Thank you, Director. Sticking around, I think, for the next item, item 7.7, the monthly utility billing request for funds. So, well, oh, sorry, I was shocked by the, I have to push the wrong button. You've got a few up here, do you? Yeah. Thank you. Perfect. Sorry, Director, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm requesting that $8,400 be approved to use an external provider for the monthly utility billing. I realize this is an unusual request due to this being within my spending limits and low dollar amount. However, it was a request that we had in the 2021 budget, and it was removed. And in order for me to be transparent, I wanted to bring this to council. This is the third, if not fourth, time that we've analyzed and compared in-house versus external provider. Based on the information gathered, we believe savings will be experienced in our supplies and equipment and, of course, employee time. When there are more than 1,000 pieces of mail, we have to do a bulk mail-out process. This bulk mail-out process requires us counting items 3 times during the process. If we were to look at our savings without labor, it's approximately $4,300, which leaves us $4,100 that I believe that we could absorb into our current budget. Beginning in April, there was about 11,790 utility accounts. 9,500 of these require a paper utility bill. That means that 20% of our utility accounts are using e-billing services, and they are continuing to grow each year. Administration is working on a mandatory e-billing. However, e-billing is always more successful when we're implementing that with a customer service portal. At most, companies will only average 30% on e-billing services if they're offered and not considered mandatory. However, if you match the e-billing services with a customer service portal, there is a lot better chance of success. We are currently reviewing a customer service portal right now, and we believe that this is something that the customers would definitely benefit from. When we look at our monthly utility billing, equipment and staff are 2 main concerns. First, our equipment, if it continues the way it is, it requires repairs. We are looking at breakdowns every second month we've been having since about September. Our concern is that the equipment's going to break down and we won't be able to fix it. So then that means we're going to have to come to council and ask for new equipment that we did not budget for 2021, but was planning on it for 2022 and 2023 for the two equipment. Secondly, we have the staff time. Our staff time is being used looking after paper, and my concern is we're not providing the customer service that we could be providing instead of doing the monthly mailing. My other concern is injuries. The staff is frustrated. They get stressed out. We have a deadline that we have to make sure that we get utility bills within a certain time frame. We don't want them going out too late because we still have to be able to give the customer about 28 days to pay their bill. So when we do have these equipment breakdowns, there's a lot more stress, there's a lot more repetitive motion being done because we have to manually stuff envelopes depending along the process of where we're at. So one of the things, the monthly billing process, we can complete it in a timely manner. We have been successful at that. I give my staff a lot of credit for doing that and for the rest of financial services staff for helping out when we have a need for that. However, I am asking that we have a look at this because I think it would definitely be beneficial for our staff and for the customers both.
Thank you. So just before we go to Councillor Edwards, so just to clarify, you're asking to move forward on this project with your existing dollars within your department?
Correct.
Thank you. So no new dollars?
Right.
Okay, Councillor Edwards?
Thank you. Well, that was certainly one of my first questions. I read the report and I saw a lot of negativity in this monthly billing aspect of things. And the monthly billing was sold to us that it's going to save us money. So at the end of 21, I know it's going to take some time, but at the end of 21, how much money do you think the monthly savings or the monthly billing will save us in bad debt?
In 2021?
Yes.
It's difficult to say right now. We are still working on payment plans for various customers as a result of 2020. And so those will have an impact, I believe, for some time going into 2021. So right now at this time, I would really hesitate to say any result of what that's going to be. We do have the water meter replacement project that will be reporting coming up here in the next few months on the success of that project. And that's where a lot of that savings and discovering some issues that could provide us with savings going forward.
I'm a little concerned about that because the idea of going to monthly billing was because we were down approximately $5 million in bad debt for water. And I'm hopeful that the monthly billing is going to be a success because now if you're behind on the bill, we can catch that quicker before you leave town.
That's correct. That is a very good point. We are doing more tagging. We're doing more review of the accounts now because we have every 28 days monthly. Versus we used to not actually start tagging until 5 or 6 months after the fact. So we're tagging now within a couple months as opposed to 5 or 6 months later. So we're not going to see an immediate result from that, coupled with COVID and us people not having to pay for 6 months. It's very difficult for this year to really say what the impact of monthly billing will be.
Okay, I just looked at the dreary report that just spelt that, oh my God, this wasn't a very good decision, and it kind of made my head shake a little bit.
My apologies for that. Monthly billing, I believe, is a positive thing. It's just one of the things is that we knew we were going to affect was our, depending on how we did the monthly billing, It would affect our processes in our department, and it would also have an impact on the customer to a certain extent as well.
Okay, thank you. I like that much better. I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ogrodnik.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to move the recommendation, but that's fine. It's a good recommendation, and I just want to say, with monthly billing, it is going to save us in losses, because instead of 3 months, we're going to only lose 1 month. We're going to still have those people that are going to run away without paying their utility bill. There's no doubt about it. But it'll be 1/3 of what it used to be. And so that's the positive of this. The other thing I would encourage the public is to get your utility bill online if you're capable of doing that. I know some people don't have access to computers, what have you, but it's great. I have it, I get it every month, and man, it comes right to my phone, and my SaskTel is that way. I've got to figure out how to do SaskPower, SaskEnergy yet. I haven't done that yet. But it's really, really a savings. You're saving this $8,400 to the city. If everybody did that, you wouldn't have to mail them out. But I understand that some people don't have access to that, and I respect that. And I know some people do like the paper. So I just encourage people to go online and get a utility bill through our department. They'll set you up. It's quite easy to do. If I could do it, it's easy to do. So just thank you for that, and I support this motion, and I thank you for your transparency in coming forward to us to tell us exactly what you were going to do. So thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. One thing Councillor Ogrodnik did touch on was the e-billing there, and I think that we heard in the council chamber that we needed to make that a priority, and talking about incentives on how we get people signed up, but I haven't seen that yet. Any incentive program that says, hey, let's get at it, because my goodness, if we could get people on that, boy, we're going to save $1, what is it, $1 a stamp these days, I think, so.
With the total cost, it's over $1.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big thing for our city to get people to move over, and you know what? I think it's mostly intimidation is what it is. So a little bit of an education process. I don't think it's going to be difficult to move people over if we show them how easy, or even help them set it up with their phone right there. Like I think that we need to do that. It's important, and we're sitting less than 20% right now, and that's, I think, hopefully we move forward with that prioritization of that, and get an incentive program or an education, whatever we need to do.
Yep. 3-month free pass at the field house, for example. Like the innovation. Mayor Dion.
I'm going to support the motion, but I'm going to go on two things. First, on Councillor Edwards. Absolutely. For the month of May, anyone that goes on e-billing is going to be entered into a prize package of 4 rounds of golf at Cook, 4 passes for the Alfred Jenkins Center, 4 passes for the swimming pool. Pick your option. I think there's options there. And then you do it May, June, July. You can give those packages away. Say everyone that enters e-billing this month gets an entry into the draw. Same thing next month. Do it for 5 or 6 months and see the response we get. I'm going to touch on a thing you said. You're looking at portals. And I take it that's what you're talking about in the way to pay. But what I'd like you to do is look at what the Crowns did, okay? And I'm not happy with what the Crowns did. Is you used to be able to pay with your credit card, and now what they've done is they farmed the credit card business off to a private company, and I know why they did it, to save money. And so now I've never paid that way. I always pay another way, but I was like Dennis, I couldn't figure out on my phone. So I phoned them, they put me onto a thing, and I paid by my credit card. I thought that was great. But then I got a $10 bill for processing my SaskPower payment on that credit card from that credit card company. I was charged a $10 fee. So I want to watch when you do these portals, I know SaskPower, SaskEnergy got out of it, and their argument was, well, we don't want to give all our customers points. Well, and see, that was the incentive to pay by your credit card, points. But I looked at it this way. I'd sooner take your points than have you have a debt. I'd sooner have Visa have the debt than one of the Crowns or the city. Because some of us manage our lives by debt management. We live check by check, so our credit card sort of floats us back and forth. So it'll be interesting when you look at a portal, because the Crowns have got away with that. Before, you could pick it up, punch your credit card number in, paid. But now they don't do that anymore. And what they have done is, if you still want to pay it, they transfer you to this company. You do it, but they don't tell you that there's a charge for it. And then you get a charge. And I was kind of surprised my charge was $10. So I thought that was kind of expensive to pay a $160 bill. But I'm glad that we're looking at options, because people are looking at options to pay, and I'd sooner have somebody else carry the debt.
Okay, thank you, Director. Since we're at a close here, I wonder, we don't have a council meeting on Monday until the following Monday. Do you think by then you could bring in some recommendations for incentives at that time?
For a week this Monday?
There is no meeting this coming Monday. We don't meet until the week after. Just give it some thought. I'm just listening to the room in front of me, and it seems we'd like to move in that direction sooner rather than later. There you go. Yep. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion in front of us. Okay, the voting is open. Please place your vote. Counselor?
No.
Okay, the voting is closed, accepted, and the motion is passed. Moving on to the next item. Item 7.8, Agnes Morasti, expression of interest. And we believe we have the director coming to tell us what that is on 20th Street West. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Council, for the opportunity once again. So in regards to Angus Morasti School, expression of interest, just a little bit of a reminder for you. You'll recall in 2019, the City of Prince Albert made an agreement with the Prince Albert Grand Council to effectively exchange, and again, very, very simplified this explanation, but exchange this parcel of land, which was the previous house of the Angus Morasti School, for our Parkland Community Hall. After that process, after that agreement was executed, the city expeditiously moved ahead with the demolition and the removal of Angus Morasti School, and what we're left with is a perfect infill project prime for development. Now, over the course of the last 2 years or so, certainly we've gotten questions about what our plan is for the Angus Morasti site. When will it be developed? It continues to get touched on during budget time, things like that. It was the focus of a previous discussion in regards to playgrounds and parks, so I thought it would be prudent for us to bring forward a bit of an update for Council this evening. What we're suggesting is an expression of interest, which is a non-committal process, but it is a transparent process. And I'll just read my explanation here as per my report. It's the first step in a transparent process to assess the alignment between the developer's vision for the property versus the goals and outcomes that are expected by the city. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that as a city, we did reach out to the neighborhood, the West Hill neighborhood of those surrounding Angus Morasti School, to chat with them about what their vision was for the property. The focus of that meeting was primarily to inform them of the decision to demolish the school. That was the focus of our meeting. That's the information that we were prepared to answer at that stage. But as we fully expected, the discussions did somewhat gravitate towards the future of the land and what it would look like. Although the neighborhood was very excited that we were to demolish the school, you know, obviously they are certainly interested in its future development as well. So that property is owned by the city. As is a number of pieces of property, we can move ahead with development in a couple of different fashions. We as a city could develop it ourselves, certainly with pros and cons, or we could sell the property and have someone else develop it. And that's what we're focusing on today. That's what we're exploring today. Certainly we're not committing to that, but we want to talk about what that might look like for us as a city and what the benefits might be for us as a city. And that's why we are issuing an expression of interest. So essentially the expression of interest, and there is a draft attached to your report, We post it online and we invite private investors, private developers to share with us their vision for the property. What do you see this 3-acre parcel being developed as in the future? And from there, they can give us a highlight or a high-level vision for the property, whether it's single family, if they want to develop a park, what their timelines are, what their qualifications are, perhaps more importantly. And we can sit down with them and decide, look, is this something that is worth pursuing privately, or is this something that is in our best interest as a city to take on ourselves? So that's what this expression of interest does. After the expression of interests are received by us, what we will do is certainly reach out to the community members again to get their input. We'll invite the potential private developers to attend the meeting as well, so they can hear firsthand what we would like to see as a city. Again, this is a very unique opportunity for us. We believe as planners that this is an opportunity for us to provide something that isn't provided in the city right now, and that is development within an infill neighborhood surrounded by a very, very well-established, beautiful neighborhood in the West Hill. And when you talk to some of those residents, they are very passionate, a passionate group of people that they want to see that property developed in a fashion that certainly suits their interests, but those as a city as well. It's no secret that previous meeting there was a couple themes that continue to emerge. One of those was a park space, and we at that meeting committed to that. Size, location, we haven't committed to that, but that there will be a park space, absolutely. And secondly, what type of housing? Are we talking high rises or are we talking single family dwellings? As a planner, my vision for that property is single family dwellings. However, again, through an expression of interest, we invite those private developers to share their vision with us as well. So from that meeting, we'll organize a further meeting with the private developers. We'll provide them all of the information that we have, servicing, costs, timelines, those types of things. And then the property could potentially be formally put up for sale, and then we invite them to make a formalized offer with their tightened up vision. So how many lots do they want to develop? What is their timeline? What is that park going to look like? What is their subdivision design? And only at that point will I be in a position to bring forward a recommendation to City Council, ultimately for approval. So that's what the expression of interest does in a nutshell, and I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Good. Well, thank you, Director, for outlining that process so well. Mayor Dion?
Now, just so we don't get the neighborhood too excited, this process is going to take a while. It's not going to happen tomorrow because we've already been getting some calls, and I found them very interested. They're supportive, and of course it was about the park space. And so at what point would we hold a public meeting? I think it would be after you bring your recommendation to us, and then we would order a public meeting and then arrange that again, and then after that move forward. Is that sort of your vision, sir?
Thank you for the
question. And I'll move the recommendation.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mayor Dion. My plan would, and however, this is a flexible plan that could be influenced by council, absolutely, would be that we would get the results of the EOI back. I bring forward the results to executive committee and make a recommendation whether or not we should move ahead with public consultation. If all of the proposals that we get are for, I'll be a little bit extreme, but 4 high-rise apartment buildings or all commercial space, something that we're not at all interested in, there's no point in moving forward with public consultation at this time. But yes, if there's something in those packages that we like, I think that would be the logical next step.
Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you. I know I'm jumping the gun here a bit, but I hope that we also consider just leaving this as green space within the city. I think, or park space. I'm not opposed to development at all. I'm not opposed to housing and what have you. I just think that it would be a nice area to leave as park space, and I know Mayor Dion's not going to agree with me, and that's fine. We can disagree, but I hope that is one of our options as well. I'm not sure we need more lots for sale at this point. Now there would be a different type of lot, I understand that, in West Hill versus Lakeview or Crescent Acres, but green space, park space is always nice.
Thank you, Mayor Dion.
Well, when he brings his report back, I won't ask him for it today, but when he brings his report back, he'll also bring a report back. We also still have an agreement with the Prince Albert Grand Council on that property, so it, for development, and they're to share in it, so there would be a hurdle. And yes, I certainly wouldn't support a 3-acre park. We have parks all over. When we did our master plan to grow the city, we plopped green spaces all over the spot. And I was at that meeting, and so was Councillor Zurikowski and everything. And they were looking for to replace, they had an old merry-go-round, an old slide, and an old swing. And I think some monkey bars and crawling. And so they asked if they could get a playground back. And my recommendation will be, if we do sell it and it comes back, that we do a similar playground that we did at off of Muzzy. And that will be paid for by the developer. That's why I'm being a little aggressive. It won't be paid for by the city. And so we can go a little more extreme and get a better product than they did have. But I think once the project comes forward and we'll move it forward, then we'll get the public input.
Okay, anything else?
Tara Lennox up here.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So I agree with Councillor Ogrodnik that an important thing to consider is that we as a city, we do have the option of leaving this as just as green space, which is what the area currently looks like. And I have heard from members of the public, especially those who live in the area, that they do not have enough green space in their walkable area in the west hill of that location, and that there is an impetus to just leave the green space that we have currently, leave it as green space. So that will be something that City Council will have to vote on in the future, it looks like. I understand the comment about PA Grand Council. My understanding is that we as City Council, we have not committed any funds to PA Grand Council, just that PA Grand Council would receive 10% of any development that we do receive. But if we were to leave it as green space, then that is an option for our City Council. As the Mayor states, the public were very interested in playground equipment. I was also at the public meeting that's being referenced, and the members of the public, the community showed up. It was a good turnout, and there was a large interest in having playground equipment on the site and having green space there. Lastly, I would point out that the draft expression of interest only is suggesting 0.3 or 0.5 acres for green space. And I would suggest that that is likely not sufficient for the community want, of what the community wants there. And I would like to see that amount increased in the draft expression of interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion in front of us. Any final thoughts? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Please place your vote. Councillor?
No.
Okay, voting is closed, and the results show that it is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving to the next item. Monthly utility billing request for funds. Nope, did that. Let's go to 7.9 then, bylaw number 9 of 2021. Landscaping requirements in the M1 heavy industrial zoning district. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of council. This report is a result of a motion made by council back in February on the 22nd, and it reads that administration prepare a report regarding the impact of relaxing the landscaping requirements for M1 heavy industrial properties for consideration at an upcoming meeting. So here we are. The issue at hand is one that I've dealt with numerous times over my career with the city, and that is that we have what could be perceived as onerous landscaping requirements in some of our zones. specifically heavy industrial. So when we talk about the North Industrial area, north of the river, or south of 40th Street, kind of in the South Industrial area, we do have a certain standard that must be met right now as per the zoning bylaw. And some of those certainly do come with a cost. Trees are expensive, sod is expensive, and perhaps most importantly, poured in place curbing is expensive as well. So with that, I know that certain councillors have received concerns from some residents. In some cases, I've been told some property sales and developments have fallen through, which we absolutely do not want to see. So the motion in front of you today, which is bylaw number 9 of 2021, allows myself as director and my planners to give them a little bit more discretion in how we apply our landscaping requirements. I'll briefly read them out to you. The new sections is at the discretion of the development officer. Properties located in the M1 heavy industrial zoning district that are developed to a service level 2 or 3 standard in accordance with the Prince Albert Official Community Plan may not be required to provide on-site landscaping. Local improvements occur that it increase the service level to 1. Section 8.1.6A shall apply. So essentially what we're saying is that if there are communities, industrial communities that are developed with nothing more than gravel roads and water and sanitation, we are able to recommend relaxing those requirements with a caveat that if the city booms and all of a sudden we're paving the roads and we're adding all sorts of different pieces of infrastructure, which may or may not be likely, you may be required to lift that standard to that service level 1 requirement. And secondly, at the discretion of the development officer, alternatives to poured in place curbing may be considered in the M1 heavy industrial zoning district. So what that means is instead of poured in place curbing, perhaps rubber curb stops, concrete curb stops, which do come at a fraction of the cost, which still meet the same intent, we could consider those options. So as a result of that motion, bylaw 9 is what we came up with. I'd be happy to answer your questions, and if approved this evening, it will be forwarded to an upcoming committee or city council meeting.
Mayor Dion.
Well, thank you for responding to us. Because on Friday, and I'll let my other colleague that was with me, we drove the area, and we just don't understand landscaping in that area at all. Grass, trees. There's a new heavy equipment operator. I don't know who it is. I should have drove over and looked at the equipment. It was where we took the property back where it used to be an auto wrecker. Boy, you should see the heavy equipment that's in there, And so when I stopped and talked to him, he was so happy that there wasn't curbs and sidewalks because his heavy equipment would have crushed it all just by the weight of that equipment driving over it. And so it's called heavy industrial for a reason. I haven't found a heavy industrial area, Saskatoon Region, anywhere that's good looking. Heavy industrial is sort of the I don't want to say the worst of the worst, but they're the noisiest, they're the smokiest. And that's why you put them in a certain area and they're called heavy industrial. So I'm pleased that you responded to that because we do have some opportunities and I know the landscaping was a big issue for them. So thank you for responding to us and I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig, for your report and thank you for hearing us and reduce or relaxing these requirements because as Mayor Dion said, in this part of the city, it just doesn't make sense to be this strict. And I understand other areas of the city. We need to have these bylaws in place. We want 2nd Avenue, we want 15th Street, we want Cornerstone and other business areas to look good. This one would look fine with just mowing down the grass and weeds and that being the requirement. I don't think it needs to have all of those stringent requirements that we require in other areas. So thank you for hearing us and bringing back this report.
Okay, we have a motion in front of us. I'm ready to move to a vote. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Vote is open. Please cast your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
Thank you. The voting is closed and the motion is accepted. Okay. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Moving to item 7.10, mass notification system, the PA alert. And we have a verbal presentation brought to us by Chief Chris Olson from his office at the Fire Hall. Good afternoon, Chief.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Council. I just want to provide you with a brief overview of my report. It's regarding the mass notification system that the City of Prince Albert has utilized since 2014. I'm going to take you back to 2012 when the need was identified for a mass notification system to get the message out to our citizens in the event of a disaster or an emergency. In 2014, Council approved the Everbridge system, which we know as PA Alert. And from that day forward, it has been our alerting system. One thing of note is that in 2015, so the PA Alert system predates the SASC alerting system, which is operated by the province of Saskatchewan. Just as a highlight to date, we have utilized the mass notification system one time. To date, we have just over 3,000 subscribers, and you know, to make the alerting system functionable and to have it operate properly, we need frequency and large subscription base. I guess my recommendation to council today is that we forego the renewal of the agreement for June 11th of 2021, and then utilize the provincial system, which we are an active or a participating partner of, in the event we have to get a message out.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor Dion?
To the Chief, wherever you went, is it possible to transition our 3,000 members to the provincial one, or do we have to get their permission, or do they have to do it individually? You know, I find people on it, they like it, and they're probably not on the province, but I'm kind of worried, you know, that once we scrap our program or discontinue it, that will they have that opportunity? How will they be notified to switch to the other one, or can we just massively do it?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question, Mayor. To the best of my knowledge, they cannot. They would have to get the app, the Sask Alerting app, which is the Everbridge system, and sign up that way. As far as notification, at the end of my report, talking about the communications portion of it, I would work with the communications manager, Kylie Bear. We'd formulate a message that would go to our 3,000 subscribers, encouraging them to and educating them on signing up for Sask Alert.
Thank you.
Councillor Head?
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you, Deputy Mayor. And to the Chief to bring this forward, I mean, you know, it's a cost save here and somewhat some redundancy, I think, moving forward through this last year. People have been utilizing the provincial alert system, so I'll move this motion. If you give me back at the core, I'll move the motion. That's
Thank
up on
you.
the screen.
Any other further discussion on the motion then? Seeing and hearing none, we will move to the vote. The voting is open. Please place your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, motion, the voting is closed and accepted, and the motion passes. Thank you, Chief. Okay, moving to the next item, item 7.11, the neighborhood notices follow-up by the Communications Director, Kylie Bear.
Okay, good evening, City Council. So late in 2019, a motion was approved that copies of notices being sent to neighborhoods be provided to members of council before they are sent, or at a minimum at the same time they are being sent to residents for a trial period of 18 months, and that a report be forwarded at the conclusion of the trial period to provide members of council an opportunity to review the practice and its benefits. So what was happening at the time is that administration would draft a public notice, send it out to a group of properties, and councillors would not necessarily be aware of what was going out. And so the new practice ensures that you are at least aware of the copy, or at least you have a copy of the correspondence that goes out, so that if you do get calls, you have the same thing that the member of the community has. So the notices range in topic and include everything from consultation meetings to development permit public notices or the scheduling of paving or utility work. In 2020, we found that there were 44 notices that went out. And following a review of the department, we identified a couple that were missed, but for the most part, this new process has been easily incorporated into our administrative practices. So the recommendation tonight is to approve this as a permanent part of our process. And then also, of course, to get feedback about how you found it went, or if there's anything else that we need to know before proceeding. That actually concludes the presentation, so if you have any comments.
Perfect, very well communicated. Councillor Miller.
I'll move the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
No, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a comment, I wasn't on council previous to this, but I appreciate the emails, although they're, a lot of them, but there's nothing worse than getting a call from a resident and saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
So thank you for that correspondence, and I'm glad we're making it a permanent process.
Okay, no further discussion. We have a mover, so we'll move to the vote. Okay, the vote is open. Please cast your vote. Councillor?
Yes.
Okay, the vote is now closed. The motion is accepted and passed. So we'll move right into the next item, 7.12, the social media relations and public statements policy.
Okay,
To the
thank you.
manager.
Thank you again. So our existing social media policy was approved in 2014. That policy only regulates when new social media accounts are created on behalf of the city and who can post to them. So this new policy that's proposed tonight does that, but it goes farther. In addition to dealing with who is authorized to officially speak on behalf of the city on social media, it also deals with who can officially do media interviews. So this has been an administrative practice for some time and is now addressed in the policy. The new policy also outlines expectations for what employees say and post outside of work. When making public statements about the city, even on their own time, employees are expected, under the new policy, to conduct themselves with professionalism. This means comments should be, at a minimum, lawful, respectful, truthful, and show consideration for fellow employees and city council. So more details on that, there's a list in section 407 and 408 of the new policy as attached. This is particularly geared towards social media, but does apply to all public statements that are meant to be broadcast to others. So this would apply in public settings, letters to the editor, presentations at council meetings, or media interviews as examples. So the expectations outlined in this policy are based on the premise of what's called the duty of fidelity. What this means is that while employees have freedom of expression, they also have a responsibility to their employer. So this policy is very common for cities and governments, and the concept of the duty of fidelity is well established in legal precedent as it relates to employee conduct, including conduct on social media platforms. This policy will be a useful tool for administration to provide clarity for employees about what is and is not appropriate. So it's about setting expectations, clear expectations for everybody. So the recommendation tonight is to approve the policy as attached for consideration, and that this policy replace the 2014 policy that we have. That concludes the presentation. If members of council have any questions or comments.
Mayor Dion?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you.
And just so members of council know that the police commission, through recommendations of the chief, has adopted this program as well, because it didn't cover the police. But just so you know, they thought it was very well, and we've moved it forward.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Head.
Well, I am not in support of this motion today, and as our director had mentioned, it goes a little farther than the current policy. Now, I get there should be some policy in place, but I do feel this is quite exhaustive and going a little bit too far. And I'll give you an example. Looking at some of our documents, I couldn't find it at the moment, but our community plan discusses, fostering opinions and directions from our employees. And I think some of this might be there might be a feeling that that's not the case here. So I hope that this doesn't, first off, doesn't pass, but also that if it does, employees don't feel stifled that they're unable to speak to their elected leaders or others. So,
thank you. Question, if I may, a couple of questions. On 5.04, designated city spokespeople must successfully complete a city media course before responding to issue-related media inquiries. So, will that training take place, and will those people be designated to get that training? And once that takes place, then they'll respond to media. And that leads to my next question is, who is designated in this corporation to speak to the media upon media requests? How does that work? Or how will that work?
We have about a list of, I think it's at least 25 or 30 individuals designated. Some are considered general spokespeople, and then some are considered subject matter experts, so if you run a particular facility, you can speak to that facility and the operation of that facility. Those individuals are mostly out of scope managers, and not all, but most, I should say. And those individuals all have taken training, with the exception of maybe 6 or 8 are outstanding, and those are scheduled for May and June of this year.
Okay, thank you. On 5.08, the Communications Office shall be informed of all media inquiries and topics of inquiry from the media. Is that a goal, or is that a current practice, or is that where we're moving to if this passes?
I think I would describe that as a goal. The Communications Office right now is not informed of 100% of the media inquiries that are happening at the city at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion in front of us. Hearing no other questions, moving to the vote. The voting is now open. Councillor?
No.
The vote is now closed and accepted, and the motion passes. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Kylie. Okay, any unfinished business, Madam Clerk? Seeing none, one more motion then. Councillor Kilmer? Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Opposed? Still carried. Okay, we'll see you back here in half an hour, folks.